Hey there guys, it's Klay here back with another video. Today I will read chapter 23 and 24 of What If Jiraiya Adopted Naruto. The name of the author of this story is Arias. More information can be known by clicking one of the links in this video's description. Anyways, I will now begin. Chapter 23, Preliminaries, Part 1. By the way, let me introduce you the lovely proctor of the third and final phase of the exam. Yugo Uzuki. Jiraiya motioned to the purple-haired woman, wearing the usual Konoha uniform as opposed to her Anbu gear. Jiraiya looked at Haku. But I'm sure that some of you already know her. Yugo took a step forward. Alright, I'll be the referee during the fights, both now and during the actual finals. The fight will end when one of the combatants is knocked out, gives up, dies, or I declare a winner. Any questions? Sakura raised her hand. What happens if it's a tie? Like a double ko? In that case, there is no winner and both combatants are eliminated, was Yugo's answer. Sakura looked uneasy. Any more questions? No? If that's the case, let us begin. Everybody watched the screen as it flashed names at an imperceptible speed. After no less than 30 seconds, it finally revealed two names. Tenten vs Omoi. Alright, everybody but Tenten and Omoi, to the stands. Tenten and Omoi, get over here. Yugo called. While Tenten and Omoi got ready to fight, the genin sat on the stands on the left side, where they were joined by their respective Jonin sensei. Jiraiya and the rest sat on the stands on the opposite side. The stands were elevated several meters in the air, to both give the spectators a better view, and to protect them from any stray attack. Tenten is so lucky. I wish I was the first one to fight. Lee pouted. Don't worry Lee, you will have your chance. Now Tenten needs you to cheer her on. Guy replied. Right, come on Tenten, blind everybody with your flames of youth. Tenten smiled awkwardly at Lee's overly enthusiastic cheers. She then glanced at Tsunade, who was watching the fight about to begin. A painful memory from the previous year resurfaced once again. Flashback. Tenten was in a classroom inside Konoha's hospital, alongside other ninja, studying under Tsunade to be a medic nin. All of her classmates were already adults, her being the only academy student. So far, medicine proved to be harder than she had expected, but she had a good feeling about the last test she took. That is, until Tsunade show her the results of that test. What? Tenten asked, disheartened. Of the 50 questions the test had, she only answered 8 correctly. Tsunade sighed. She didn't like what she was going to say, but she had to. For the girl's sake, at least. Tenten, this is the third test you fail in a row, Tsunade began. I know. But don't worry, I'll work harder to make sure I pass the next one. Tenten was quick to answer. Tsunade sighed once again. It's not just the matter of failing. I mean, on this test, you only got 8 questions out of 50 right. That's not even a 20%. Tsunade held up a hand when Tenten was about to protest to silence her. Tenten, don't you think that maybe medicine isn't for you? But I always wanted to be like you, Tsunade-sama. You are my inspiration for becoming a kunoichi. She begged. And I'm glad that you see me in such light, but that doesn't mean that you have to follow the same path I did. You can be an awesome kunoichi. I saw your grades at the academy, and they're promising. You only need to find your right calling. Right now, you're only wasting both our times. Do you understand? Deep down, Tenten knew she was right. Being a medic nin was a delicate job in which the tiniest failure could have horrible repercussions, and she wasn't doing a very good job. Maybe she should quit now and find something else more suited to her. Alright, Tsunade-sama, I'll pick another specialty then, Tenten replied, holding back the tears. Tsunade smiled at her and placed a hand on her shoulder. Don't let this get you down, okay? I know talent when I see it. End flashback. Now is my chance to show Tsunade-sama how strong I am, Tenten thought. Omoi can't lose this fight. He'll impress all with his might, and his opponent better sees that the best path is to flee. Killer Bee rapped, while waving his arms in front of his face. Everybody stared at the Kumo Jonin, though he didn't notice, or if he noticed, he didn't care. So the Raikage sent one of the Jinchuriki here, unprotected? Strange. I'll better keep an eye on him, Jiraiya mused. All eyes were on Tenten and Omoi, both ready to fight. Begin. Yugo made a chopping motion with her hand and jumped backwards. Losing no time, Omoi unsheathed his katana and charged at Tenten, who smiled, and pulled out a sealing scroll. She unsealed another katana and a shoto, and charged against the Kumo ninja. Their blades crashed against each other's with loud clangs, producing sparks upon contact. I'm glad that you're my opponent. It's been a while since I was able to fight against another swordsman. Tenten said as she pressed in the offensive. Soon you will regret that. Kumogakure is home to some of the best swordsmen of the entire elemental nations. Omoi replied. They continued trading blows, with none of them appearing to have the upper hand. That moment, Omoi decided to reveal one of his tricks, and made several hand seals. Now you will feel the power of Kumo's swordsman. Lightning release. Thunderblade. Omoi channeled lightning through his katana, which started to crackle with electricity, and charged forwards. Tenten tried to block Omoi's vertical slash, but much to her shock, Omoi's katana sliced through hers as if it was made of butter. What? Tenten asked in shock, as she jumped backwards to avoid the slash. Still glad to fight against me? Omoi asked, smirking at her. Tenten smirked back. HMPH. This was just a setback. If you're superior to me in close-quarter combat, I'll simply switch to mid-range instead. Tenten leapt backwards, and in mid-air, she pulled another sealing scroll. Doing a somersault, she opened the scroll, facing Omoi. Manipulated tools. Steel storm. Multiple kunai and shuriken rained upon Omoi, who did his best to deflect them while jumping backwards and sideways to avoid those he couldn't block. Still, some of them managed to graze his skin, causing some superficial cuts. I can fight mid-range too. Omoi stabbed his katana on the ground and made several hand seals. Lightning release. Thunderbolt. Omoi cast his hands forward, releasing multiple lightning bolts, all which impacted on Tenten, still mid-air. However, much to his surprise, Tenten disappeared in a poof of smoke, leaving a kunai in her place. What? Omoi turned around and saw Tenten smiling at him. But he had no time to react, and the short-haired kunoichi greeted him with a kick to his jaw which sent him a few meters back. What the hell was that? Kiba asked, a bit confused. Knowing that she had no time to waste, Tenten unsealed a kusarigama from one of her scrolls and leapt at Omoi again. The dark-skinned boy knew he had no time for ninjutsu, so he pulled out a couple kunai to block her attack. While on mid-air, Tenten swung the spiked ball at the end of her kusarigama and tossed it at Omoi tried to block it, but much to his horror, the spiked ball was aimed lower than he had predicted, and the chain wrapped around his ankles. Tenten's foot then slammed against his face, knocking him down like a fallen tree. Tenten then placed the sickle of her kusarigama on Omoi's neck. Say it, the kunoichi said, pressing the sickle against his neck. Okay, I give up. Omoi replied. Tenten unwrapped the kusarigama, and helped Omoi on his feet. Winner of the match, Tenten. Yugo announced. Tenten jumped and squealed in joy. Guy and Lee loudly cheered her as well. Both Tenten and her felled opponent returned to the stands. Good fight, Omoi spoke up. Using body replacement with one of your kunai was a neat trick. Tenten smiled at him. Thanks. And sorry that you're out of the finals. It's okay. I can try the next time. Seriously, what the hell was that? Karui angrily asked to her returning teammate. First fight of the day and you lose. Hey, calm down. That girl was strong as hell. Plus she caught me off guard, Omoi replied. Karui scoffed. Yeah, I saw that. Meanwhile, Tenten was being congratulated by her teammates, when somebody else approached her. Congratulations for your victory, Tenten saw, and Haku praised. Now I see that you were holding back when we sparred yesterday. You're a really strong kunoichi. Thanks, Haku. Haha, yes, I usually don't show my best tricks unless absolutely necessary, Tenten replied with a warm smile. The next match is about to begin. Neji interrupted and pointed to the screen, where more names were being flashed until it finally stopped after another good half a minute. Tamaki vs Kegan, alright. Tamaki excitedly said as she jumped into the arena. Time to kick some ass. Tamaki, be careful, Kiba warned. According to Akamaru, that guy's chakra level is way above the average genin. I know. Don't worry, I have a plan, the cat kunoichi reassured. Her opponent, one of Fu's teammates, stepped in without much fuss. Once the two were in front of each other, Yugo motioned them to start. Begin. Tamaki jumped backwards, bit her thumb, and made 5 hand seals before slamming her hands on the floor. Summoning jutsu. From a cloud of smoke, Two cats wearing blue and red kimonos over a mesh armor appeared at Tamaki's side. Kegan visibly cringed. "Are those cats?" the tacky ninja asked, visibly scared. "Ninja cats," Tamaki punctualized, as she put on 2 gauntlets with 3 long metallic claws each. "Why, are you afraid of cats?" "No, it's not that, it's that Achu." The tacky ninja violently sneezed. "I can't stay near cats because Achu." Tamaki couldn't help but chuckle. "You're allergic to cats? Oh boy, this isn't your lucky day, is it?" "Tamaki-chan, what do you want us to do?" the cat with the blue kimono asked. Tamaki's mouth formed a wicked grin. "Denka, Hina. Tear him to shreds." The 2 cats nodded and suddenly disappeared. Kegan was assaulted by 2 red and blue blurs, which left multiple scars on his body, all while sneezing constantly, and trying to flail his arms aimlessly in a vain attempt to fend off his feline attackers. "Leave me, Achu. I can't, Achu. This is Achu. Time to end this." Tamaki rushed towards forward, her claws glowing with a blue light. Cross slash. Tamaki made 2 diagonal slashes from opposing angles, forming an X. Kegan managed to pull 2 kunai and block the attack, but the chakra-released blew the tools out of his hands, and knocked him on his back. "And now, I surrender. Achu. Just take those beasts away from me. Achu." Kegan pleaded. "Winner, Tamaki," Yugo declared. "Good job, guys." Tamaki praised her cats while tossing each of them a tasty treat. "It was a pleasure, Tamaki-chan," Hina replied as she bit her treat. "Call us again when you need us," Denka said before both he and his sister disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Tamaki returned to her teammates, which congratulated her. From his seat a couple meters away, Shikamaru stared at her with incredulous eyes. A kunoichi who summons cats to combat fights against a guy who's allergic to cats. "What are the chances?" Shikamaru asked in disbelief. "Yeah, it's like if I fought a ninja that fights with food." Choji added. "I don't think such a ninja exists." Choji, Ino rolled her eyes. "Still, it would be nice to fight against an opponent like that. I wish I had her luck." Meanwhile, Tamaki's defeated opponent returned to his team as well. "I didn't know you were allergic to cats," Yoro told his teammate. "And I'm not," Kegan replied in a whisper. "But it was a believable way to lose. And you may better start thinking in a way to throw your match without raising suspicions." "Alright, time to start the 3rd match," Yugo announced as the screen started flashing names once again, until it chose 2. And it was that moment that Shikamaru realized that he didn't have Tamaki's luck. His mouth formed a grimace upon seeing the names of the next match. Shikamaru Nara vs Tamari. Shikamaru groaned. Why'd it had to be her? As they both walked into the arena, or in Shikamaru's case, dragged himself, Asuma leaned towards his 2 other students. "Do you know her?" the bearded Jonin asked. "We fought against her team during the 2nd phase, Choji explained, and cringed upon remembering how. "Her team is really strong." "Well, except for that hooded guy with the painted face." Ino's eyes rested on Kankuro. "He refused to use his jutsu, so not to give us intel on him, so we don't know how strong he is. The girl has some monstrous wind jutsu that not even Shikamaru's fire jutsu were able to counter," Choji continued. "So, luck didn't smile at Shikamaru. Still, he's an intelligent and resourceful kid. I'm sure he'll manage to overcome his opponent's superior strength," Asuma said. On the arena, Shikamaru and Tamari were in front of each other, Tamari smirking evilly, while Shikamaru had an apathetic expression. "I'm glad that I got to fight you again. That way we can finish the fight we started at the ship," Tamari spoke up. "Since I hate to leave a job half done." Shikamaru snorted. "Well, at least one of us is happy to be here. Don't worry. I know you're friends with Naruto, so I'll try not to hurt you." Her smirk grew. "Much." Shikamaru rolled his eyes. "Gee, thanks, now I feel much better." "Ready?" Yugo asked, looking at both of them. "Begin." Tamari wasted no time and unfolded her massive war fan and prepared to unleash her devastating wind jutsu. However, Shikamaru was faster and got into position to use his shadow imitation jutsu. Tamari was forced to cancel her attack in order to jump and run away from Shikamaru's shadow. She zigzagged in hopes of slowing down the chasing shadow. "Damn it, I have nowhere to run." Tamari cursed inwardly as she started to search through her tool pouch for something that could help her. Come on. There has to be something that can help me, oh, yes, like this." Showing a triumphant smirk, Temari threw a smoke bomb at an intermediate point between herself and Shikamaru, and soon both of them were engulfed by a growing cloud of gray smoke. Unable to see his opponent, Shikamaru cancelled his jutsu. Your jutsu is useless if you can't see your opponent, isn't it? Temari said in a taunting manner. Maybe, but your wind jutsu will dispel all the smoke the moment you use them. You had a good idea, but you didn't think how it would affect you, Shikamaru retorted as he looked around for Temari's more than likely counterattack. Oh, I thought about it just right. Much to his shock, Temari appeared in front of him, her fan folded and raised over her head, ready to slam Shikamaru with it. This time, it was the lazy genius' turn to dodge and run away from Temari's melee attacks. The shadow and fire jutsu, your underdeveloped muscles. It doesn't take a genius to see that you're a mid-range specialist, aren't you? Temari asked while attacking ceaselessly. I was going to say the same thing about you, Shikamaru replied, while dodging a swing to his head. True, but I also trained in melee combat just in case, Temari smirked confidently. You don't have to swear it. Those mannish arms speak for themselves, Shikamaru pointed out. Just because my arms are strong doesn't mean they're mannish. Temari protested. Shikamaru pulled a pair of kunai and blocked the incoming fan. The blow was devastating, and the kunai flew out of his hands. That hit nearly cost him his forearms. Now that he had measured his opponent's strength, there was only one thing he could do. I give up, Shikamaru said as he raised a hand. A chorus of, what? And similar exclamations followed Shikamaru's statement. The loudest came from Ino. Temari asked, mildly confused. You do? Just like you said, I'm a ranged specialist. My jutsu work fine when fighting alongside my teammates, but they don't much when I'm alone. You clearly are the superior fighter, and I can't hope to defeat you. Hence this is the best course of action, Shikamaru explained. Oh, come on. Temari protested. Are you sure you want to give up? Yugo asked Shikamaru, who nodded in return. If that's the case, then the winner of this match is Temari. In the stands, Kankuro cheered, while Gaara smiled a bit. Despite her victory, Temari didn't look as happy as one would expect. This is first match between a Konoha and non-Konoha ninja that is won by the latter. Thanks goodness it was somebody from our team, the puppeteer stated. That's not fair. Shikamaru's jutsu are to fight alongside others, not on his own. He's smart and talented enough to become Chunin, Choji complained. Maybe, but there are times in which a ninja will be alone and won't have any help, and being dependent on your team isn't good, Asuma replied. Besides, look at how easily he gave up, Kakashi noted. I don't think somebody who quits when things get difficult is ready to become Chunin. Maybe he should train to become a better solo fighter for the next exams. As Shikamaru and Temari returned to the stands, the screen once again started to flash the names of the possible next match. All 3 matches so far have been a boy versus a girl, and the girl always won. I'm glad to see that there are so many good kunoichi this year, even if some aren't from Konoha, Kurenai noted with a smile of satisfaction. Well, it seems that the winner of the next match will be a boy regardless of the outcome, Shizune pointed out. Everybody looked at the screen, and knew that this was going to be a fight worth watching, given the skill level of both combatants. Sasuke Uchiha vs Neji Hyuga, both prodigies eyed each other before getting to the arena. Most Konoha genin were relieved that 2 of the most powerful competitors were going to fight each other, and at least only one of them would make it to the finals. The adults, however, thought pretty much the opposite. Come on Sasuke-kun, you can do it. Sakura cheered. Yeah, show everybody how awesome you are. Karen shouted as well. I wanted to fight against either of them, Lee pouted, while Tenten rolled her eyes. Nothing seems to go my way. Pity this fight didn't happen in the finals, Jiraiya mentioned. A clash between these 2 would surely give Konoha plenty of publicity. Don't underestimate the rest of our genin, JiraiyaXTsunade replied. I'm sure that they will give quite the spectacle as well. Sasuke and Neji were in front of each other, both eagerly waiting for the proctor to start the match. They say that you are among the strongest genin in Konoha, Sasuke spoke up. Good. I wouldn't want to go to the finals because I had the luck to fight against a weakling in the prelims. Soon you will regret those words, Uchiha. And you will realize that luck had nothing to do with it, Neji replied. Ready? Alright then, begin. Yugo announced. As expected, the first thing both genin did was to activate their respective dojutsu before dashing at each other. Neji attacked relentlessly with quick palm strikes. However, Sasuke was able to match his speed and block or deflect all of Neji's hits before they could touch Sasuke, though not without some difficulty. Seeing that in close combat all what he could do is defend, Sasuke jumped backwards. Very few people are able to fight a Hyuga in hand-to-hand combat. Judging by your movements, you have experience fighting against a gentle fist practitioner? Neji asked. You could say that. And I know what the so-called gentle fist can do if you touch me, so that's not gonna happen, Sasuke remarked. Neji chuckled. I guess that you sparred against Hinata-sama then, the Hyuga genius concluded. But don't think that that gives you an edge over me. The skill gap between Hinata-sama and me is as wide as it can get. You can't hope to defeat a lion just because you fought against a cat. No, but fighting against Hinata allowed me to learn ways to fight your kind. Such as the fact that as close combat specialists, you have no way of attacking me from afar, a limitation I don't have. Sasuke's hands then flew through hand seals. Fire release. Great fireball jutsu. Sasuke breathed a massive fireball at his Hyuga opponent. But far from being intimidated, Neji just smirked, and in a display of impressive speed, jumped aside to dodge the fireball, while dashing at Sasuke until he was once again in close combat range. Neji managed to land 2 successful strikes which shut down some of Sasuke's tenketsu before the Uchiha jumped back and drew 2 kunai. Such arrogance, believing that you have figured me out, Neji replied, his smirk still present. Is it how you are, or is it a Uchiha trait? I believe to be the latter, otherwise, your clan wouldn't have been stupid enough to try to take over the whole village. Sasuke was doing a pretty good job keeping his cool and staying focused, and that comment pretty much ensured that it would no longer be the case. Then again, that might have been Neji's intention. Measure your words, Hyuga, before you say something you might regret, Sasuke coldly threatened, as his grip on his kunai tightened. Neji, however, was undaunted, and continued with his verbal beatdown. Or else what? Do you think you can intimidate me, Sasuke? Then again, it was the Uchiha who ever managed to make me experience true terror, so maybe I am underestimating you. I'm warning you. Sasuke started to grit his teeth. Meanwhile, in the stands, people were listening intently to the exchange between the 2 prodigies, wondering if Neji resented Sasuke, or was there something more. What the hell is that brat doing? Tsunade asked. I believe he's trying to rile Sasuke up so he loses his focus and fights more recklessly, Jiraiya deduced. I don't like it. Neji is playing a dangerous game. The fate of our clan is a touchy subject for Sasuke, Shisui commented, uneasy. He's underestimating Sasuke. I don't think I will ever forget about the events of that night. Fights left and right, the sound of metal clashing, the smell of burning wood and spilled blood, my clansmen dying, all while father and Hikari-sama tried to bring Hinata-sama, Hanabi-sama and me to safety. And everywhere I looked, there were those red eyes glowing in the dark, Neji recounted. Where were you that night, Sasuke? Were you comfortably asleep in the safety of your home while your clansmen massacred mine, unaware of the blood that they were spilling? That did it. As Sasuke's restraint was completely obliterated, the youngest Uchiha launched himself at the Hyuga prodigy, who was already expecting him in the usual gentle fist stance, and a smirk on his face, all the while marveling at how easy it was to goad Sasuke. However, the Hyuga prodigy found that Sasuke's onslaught wasn't as easy to counter as he had expected. Sasuke's attacks were fast, and put a lot of strength in them, making them hard to block or parry. Still, Neji managed to find and capitalize an opening and stroke Sasuke in the chest with his palm. The Uchiha dropped his kunai, jumped backwards, and coughed some blood. Neji's smirk widened. I can sense your killing intent. It's quite potent, might I add. But your desire to hurt me won't become a reality, just like your clan's desire to rule over Konoha. Sasuke let out a bone-chilling yell, and dashed at Neji once again. The Hyuga prodigy knew that the next time Sasuke made a mistake, it would be the end of the match. Sasuke threw his fist at Neji's face, the latter raising his palm to block it. And then his Byakugan revealed that Sasuke was somehow behind him. What? Was all the confused Hyuga could say before Sasuke brutally kicked him in the back, making him fall into the floor face first. Before Neji could get up, Sasuke kicked him once again in the gut with such force that he was hurled mid-air. Upon getting up, Neji saw multiple shuriken flying at him. Despite his aching body, the Hyuga prodigy managed to nimbly dodge them. Unfortunately for him, Neji didn't notice that the shuriken had ninja wire attached to them. Sasuke pulled back the strings, and the shuriken flew in a circle around Neji, wrapping the wires around him, leaving him immobilized and with his arms pinned to his body. Sasuke-kun's chakra is growing darker. Karen spoke up, as she held her hands together. I don't like where this is going. Calm down. Neji made Sasuke angry, but I'm sure that he'll be able to keep his anger in check, Shizune reassured. Or at least, that was what the black-haired medic Nin was hoping. You want me to be bad? Fine. I'll show you how bad the Uchiha can be. Sasuke snarled as he made hand seals. Fire release. Dragon fire jutsu. Sasuke breathed a stream of flames and used the strings to direct them at the immobilized Neji. At the last second, Neji managed to make enough force with his body to pull Sasuke and thus canceling his fire jutsu, loosening the wires and freeing his arms. Seeing this as his chance to counterattack, Neji dashed at Sasuke, ready to hit any part of his body with a palm strike. However, just like it happened before, Sasuke vanished and appeared behind him once again. That's the body flicker. How could you? Neji quickly turned back, but did so in time to receive a painful fist to the lower jaw. Not giving Neji time to react, Sasuke continued his violent onslaught, throwing punches left and right that the battered Hyuga could barely avoid or block. Everybody in the stands winced. Lee and Tenten got more worried by the second, while Guy lost his ever-present cheerful smile, and was replaced by a serious and stoic mask. Hinata squeaked in horror, and she brought her hands to her mouth. I never saw Sasuke-kun this angry and hate-filled before. Sakura mentioned, horror-stricken. What's wrong, asshole? Afraid of the big, bad Uchiha? Sasuke mockingly asked before finishing with a punch to the gut that knocked Neji on his back. Neji tried to say something, but all what came from his mouth was a pained grunt. Gathering what little energy he had left, the beaten Hyuga managed to get back on his feet. Okay, I think I already saw enough, Yugo mentioned as she was about to declare Sasuke the winner. What is it, do you still want more? Sasuke snarled as he pulled out another pair of kunai. Alright, I'm more than happy to oblige. Sasuke, no, stop. Shizune yelled. Sasuke then leapt at Neji, ready to stab his kunai into the Hyuga's flesh, but suddenly a gray blur crossed the arena and slammed Sasuke back into the ground. Upon realizing what happened, he saw an angry Shisui pinning him to the floor, while Yugo's sword was centimeters away from his eyes. That's enough, Sasuke, Shisui calmly said. Release me, he has to pay for what he said. Sasuke screamed as he squirmed, but Shisui's hold was too tight for him. Why are you stopping me? Didn't you hear what he said about our clan? I did, Shisui replied. But that doesn't deserve such a comeuppance. You already beat him, let it go. Doing this, you're only dishonoring our clan even further. Shisui then looked at Yugo. End the match already. Yugo nodded, and sheathed her sword. Winner of the match, Sasuke Uchiha. Neji couldn't take it anymore and fell on his knees, before laying on the floor, completely still. Tenten and Lee quickly rushed to check him. How is he? Lee anxiously asked. I don't know but he doesn't look good, Tenten replied as she stared at Neji's bloodied form. Maybe I can be of help, a new voice said. Lee and Tenten realized that Karen was now with them. Lift his head, please. Trust me, I'm a medic. Deciding to trust Karen, Lee and Tenten did as she instructed them. Karen rolled up her sleeve, and placed her forearm near Neji's mouth. Bite my arm. Neji wondered what Karen wanted to do, but he didn't have any energy left to argue with her, and decided to obey. As he sank his teeth on her flesh, Neji felt a wave of chakra coursing through his body, restoring his energy, closing his wounds and erasing the pain. At least to some extent. After a few seconds, Neji was able to stand on his own. Thank you, the Hyuga replied. But why did you help me? The duty of a medic is to help the wounded. Though if you want, you can think of it as me trying to make up for Sasuke-kun's beating, Karen admitted a bit sheepishly. Though I believe you should go with them, my ability only patched you up a little. The three genin of Team Guy turned back to see a couple of uniformed medic nin carrying a stretcher. Neji agreed, and left with the medic nin. Back at the stands, Sakura was also healing Sasuke from the wounds caused by Neji. While healing Sasuke is something she usually enjoyed, there was no joy this time around. Sasuke-kun. Sakura spoke up. Drop it, Sakura. Whatever you want to say or ask, Just don't, Sasuke icily said before the pinkette could finish. Oh okay, Sakura stammered and continued healing him until she finished. Are you feeling better now? Yes, the Uchiha grumpily replied. Thank you. Everybody soon remembered that the exam was still going on. The screen once again started to flash names, until it stopped after 30 seconds or so. Naruto Uzumaki vs Sakura Haruno. Ah yes, finally, my turn. Naruto cheered, pumping his fists. Good luck, Naruto-kun, Hinata said. Sakura isn't the worst opponent you could fight against, but don't lower your guard, understood? Kurenai warned him. Don't worry. I have been developing a special jutsu that I'm sure will grant me victory. Naruto said as he headed towards the arena. Meanwhile, Shizune was also giving her student some pointers before the fight. And don't let him fight you in a war of attrition. Naruto-kun has a monstrous stamina and chakra levels, and you will exhaust before he does, Shizune explained. I know that you're smarter and have a better chakra control than him, so use that to your advantage. Don't worry sensei, I will, Sakura replied before walking to the arena as well. Naruto and Sakura walked towards each other until there was only a small space between them, with Yugo on it. Both of them stared at each other, the fire of determination burning in their eyes. Are you ready? Begin, Yugo announced. Naruto jumped backwards while made a hand seal that preceded his favorite jutsu. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen Narutos appeared from small clouds of smoke and rushed at Sakura and quickly surrounded her. The clones charged at her, and Sakura expertly dodged their attacks before dispelling them with her chakra-enhanced punches. The original Naruto, who wasn't part of the attack, analyzed the experience he received from his clones. Damn, your super strength improved a lot, Naruto commented. Fighting you in close combat is not an option then. Wise decision, Sakura smiled in satisfaction. I should thank you for showing me this technique. It fits like a glove with my excellent chakra control. I bet now you regret teaching this to me, don't you? Naruto just smiled and shook his head. Absolutely not. This only adds to the challenge. And if I can't beat you, then I don't deserve to advance any further. Well said, Sakura then cracked her knuckles. Then, it's my turn to attack. The pinkette launched herself at Naruto, her fist already raised. Naruto knew that under any circumstances, he couldn't let Sakura to hit him not even once, or the match would be over. Sakura seemed to think that her enhanced strength would be enough to win the fight. Naruto decided to show her how wrong she was. The orange-clad ninja jumped backwards, and once again summoned more shadow clones. Get her. The original commanded, and the clones charged once more. Very smart, Naruto, wearing me down with your clones while you comfortably watch from the distance, Sakura said as she met the army of blondes. But like hell if I'm going to let you do that. Sakura plowed through the clones, dispelling some, ignoring the rest, and going for the original. She gathered chakra in her arm. Naruto dumbly asked. You're mine. Sakura sank her fist into Naruto's gut, who wheezed as the air was knocked out of his lungs. Sakura smirked triumphantly. And much to her confusion, Naruto smirked back at her. Then he poofed in a cloud of smoke. What the hell? Sakura asked in shock. She turned around and saw the rest of the Naruto clones. She guessed the original should be among them, charging at her, kunai in hand. Sakura pulled her own kunai and tried to parry the rain of slashes. What happened? Sakura saw the original Naruto creating and sending the clones, Sasuke commented. How could he trick her? Easy. Naruto used the body replacement jutsu with one of his clones. That way, if the original is in danger, he can just switch places with a clone and the enemy will be none the wiser, Shizune explained. Sasuke pondered her sensei's words. That combo wouldn't be very useful for a normal person, since even the ninja with the biggest chakra reserves couldn't create more than a few clones at a time. However, Naruto could create dozens and dozens. That meant that as long as Naruto had clones, he could avoid almost any kind of harm. Sakura will have a hard time countering that kind of defense, Karen mentioned. Don't underestimate your teammate, Karen. Sakura is a very resourceful girl, Shizune replied, confident in her words. Back to the fight. Sakura was fending off against the multiple Naruto clones, parrying their attacks and dispelling them when she had the chance, when she was left momentarily wide open, and a Naruto clone stabbed his kunai on her shoulder. Ha! The clone shouted in triumph. And much to his shock, his kunai shattered, as if somehow the pinkette's skin was made of steel. The rest of the clones shared his shock. What the hell? Sakura smirked, grabbed the clone by the arm, and used it to beat the rest of the stupefied clones until only one was left behind, the original Naruto. What the? Don't tell me that you can use the chakra-enhanced strength to harden your skin. Because not even mom can do that. Naruto asked, still in awe. Sakura smiled. It's much easier than that, Naruto, and then, Sakura's peach-colored skin turned grayish-brown, while her pink hair turned a shade of dark silver. The name of the jutsu is Earth Release, Iron Skin. Usually you cast it beforehand, but I tweaked it a bit so it remains hidden and automatically triggers upon being hit. That way you can catch your opponents off guard, kinda like the body replacement. So you do have an impressive defense as well, Naruto replied. Of course. I'm a medic nin in training, and medics are among the first ones targeted in a fight. I need to have a way to protect myself that does not rely on an escort, Sakura explained. Interesting. And how long does that jutsu last? Naruto asked. Sakura smirked at him. Like hell I'm going to tell you. But then again, I'm not going to let you to drag out the fight for you to find it either. Well, good luck with that then. Naruto then formed 10 shadow clones. You have no way of stopping me from creating clones, and you will run out of chakra long before I do, and then you will only have your taijutsu, which no offense, isn't very impressive. Fortunately, Shizune-sensei taught me a jutsu that I can use to hit you and all your clones at once. Sakura made a hand seal and puffed her cheeks. Poison mist. Sakura exhaled a huge purple poisonous cloud, forcing Naruto and his clones to jump backwards and put some distance. He started making hand seals to one of his wind jutsu, when Sakura spoke up again. And if you're thinking in using your wind jutsu to dispel the poison, keep in mind that doing so may send the poison mist towards the people watching us, and you wouldn't want that, wouldn't you? Sakura replied. Naruto couldn't see her, but he knew she had a smug smile on her face. You thought of everything, didn't you? Naruto asked. Indeed I did. So you better give up now. The poison is not lethal, but it will inflict you great amounts of pain, Sakura explained. Give up? I don't know the meaning of those words, Naruto said with a confident grin. Besides, just because I can't use wind to dispel the poison cloud, it doesn't mean that I can't get rid of it. Really? How so? Sakura asked. Did Shizune-chan tell you that the poison she makes is extremely flammable? Naruto asked. Of course I do. It's a good way to get rid of it in a fast and easy way, as well as being used as a makeshift explosive, Sakura replied. But I know you don't have any fire jutsu. No, but I have explosive tags, Naruto stated. Sakura stared at him blankly. Shit. Naruto tossed a kunai with an explosive tag attached to it, and upon exploding, the purple cloud went up in flames. One of the clones used a light wind jutsu to dispel the ensuing smoke. And now, it's about time to end this, Naruto declared as he cracked his knuckles. Okay, maybe you neutralized my strategy, but we're still back at square one. With my iron skin, you have no way of inflicting any harm on me. Sakura said as she angrily pointed at Naruto. No, but I have a jutsu that will knock you out, one that your impressive defense won't protect you from. Naruto retorted. Sakura scoffed. Ha, if you had such an impressive jutsu all along, why didn't you use it before? Because I didn't think it would be necessary. And frankly, because I don't think you deserve to have this jutsu used on you. You're a nice girl. Most of the time, Naruto's words were laced with a feeling of regret. Are you implying I'm weak? Because I'm not. Come on Naruto, do your worst then. Sakura taunted him. Alright. Don't say I didn't warn you. Naruto dispelled his clones and charged at Sakura, who adopted a defensive fighting stance. I'm very sorry Sakura, I hope you don't hate me for doing this. Back in the stands, Tsunade was trying to figure out what kind of jutsu Naruto was talking about. Jiraiya, what is Naruto talking about? Because so far I can only think in a jutsu that can pierce Sakura's defense, the slug Sannin commented. Did you? I know which one are you thinking of, and I can tell you that I didn't teach him yet, Jiraiya replied. It has to be something Naruto came up on his own. By the way he talked, it doesn't seem to be anything short of an A-rank jutsu, Tsunade replied. Everybody shared Tsunade and Jiraiya's curiosity about Naruto's fabled jutsu. Still, they were only a few seconds from finding out. Here it comes, Naruto said, forming a hand seal. Whatever it is, I am ready. However, Sakura wasn't ready for the power Naruto was about to unleash. The poor girl would never be ready. Uchiha Harem Jutsu. Wah? Multiple clouds of smoke appeared around Sakura, and when the smoke dispersed, the pinkette found herself surrounded. But not surrounded by Naruto clones, at least not normal ones. These clones were transformed into Sasuke. Into a naked version of Sasuke, with only a wisp of smoke covering their crotches. The naked Sasukes were in a variety of sexy poses, some of them blowing kisses to the stunned Sakura. "Hey there, beautiful," one of the Sasukes said in a very un-Sasuke-y way. "Why don't you come to play with me?" Another one said in a very sultry voice. "I'm all yours," another one said. Everybody else in the stands had different reactions to Naruto's ultimate jutsu. Most of the girls his age, including Ino, regardless of how much she would deny it later, were staring at the many naked Sasukes, drooling with blood coming from their noses. The boys and some adults cringed at the display. Many women, including Tsunade, Shizune and Kurenai, felt a mixture of disappointment and unbridled rage. But it was nothing compared to the fury that Sasuke was feeling right now. Wherever Sakura looked, all she saw was naked Sasukes. She could barely move. She tried to close her eyes, but they didn't obey the brain's orders, since they were too busy eating the eye candy before them. Until Sakura couldn't take it anymore, and the high-pressure blood coming from her nose launched her into the air as if she was rocket, until she slammed into the very high ceiling, only to crash down into the floor. Yugo checked the pink-haired Kunoichi. She was still alive and breathing, though unconscious. A lewd smile adorned her face. "Ah. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki," Yugo unenthusiastically declared. The naked Sasukes disappeared, leaving only a smiling Naruto. "Yay!" Naruto cheered, pumping his fists. Upon returning to the stands, Naruto was congratulated by Hinata and Haku. Kurenai, however, didn't look as happy. "A well-earned victory, I must admit," Kurenai said in an icy tone. "But you and I need to have a talk about that last jutsu you used there." Far from being intimidated, Naruto just shrugged. "Hey, if a vision of a naked guy sends Sakura into such state, well, I wouldn't say she's ready to be a chunin, don't you think?" Kurenai pondered his words for a few seconds. "I guess that there's some truth to that. Still, I wish you used a more conventional way to defeat her. You won't be able to turn your enemy's libido against them all the time. I thought it was a good way to knock her out without harming her much. I mean, I could have summoned a toad, but I thought that was a bit overkill. Though I would have done it if I had no other options," the blonde replied. Hinata started to wonder if she would have been able to resist a vision of a dozen naked Narutos around her, or if she would have the same reaction as Sakura. She would never know, and she realized that maybe it was for the best. After the medic Nin reanimated Sakura, the defeated pinkette returned to the stands, saddened. "Well, there goes my chance of being chunin," Sakura said, letting out a sigh. "Don't be so glum. You did pretty good against Naruto. And you can always try again in 6 months. Shizune tried to cheer her up, though right now it was of little help. Once again, everybody directed their attention to the screen, names flashing at an imperceptible speed once again, until it stopped on 2 names. Choji Akamichi vs Yoro. The Akamichi clan heir and the Taki ninja went into the arena. "Come on Choji, I know you can do it," Asuma told Choji with a genuine smile that Choji returned. "Damn it, how the hell I'm going to lose against this fat ass and make it look believable?" Yoro thought, while his mind raced through the possibilities. Once the 2 fighters were in front of each other, the match was ready to start. "Begin," Yugo announced, while making a chopping motion. Choji wasted no time and charged at his opponent while doing a hand seal. Partial multi-size jutsu. Choji's arms suddenly increased their size, and with his newly giant hands, tried to crush Yoro as if he was trying to kill a mosquito. Yoro, however, merely jumped to avoid the giant clap, and while in air, tossed a shuriken before doing several hand seals. Shadow clone shuriken jutsu. The one shuriken turned into a dozen, and Choji instinctively covered himself with his giant arms. The shuriken embedded themselves into his arms, but at that size, they hurt as much as being poked with a needle. After wiping the shuriken away, Choji's arms returned back to normal. "Not bad, kid, not bad," Yoro complimented, as he smirked at Choji. Choji smirked back, or at least, tried to smirk. "That's only one of my clan's many secret jutsus, there's more when that came from. Why don't you show me, then?" "With pleasure." Choji made another hand seal. Multi-size jutsu. Mucho to Yoro's surprise, Choji's body bloated and inflated until turning into a human balloon with tiny arms and legs sticking from it. Then, the head and his limbs disappeared inside his clothes, as if Choji was a turtle, and the human boulder started to roll towards Yoro at an impressive speed. Human bullet tank. Yoro saw his opportunity and wasn't going to waste it. He made several hand seals. That's not bad either, but that's not good enough. Water release. Water gun. Yoro expelled a stream of water from his mouth against the human boulder, managing to slow it down considerably. Yoro knew that if he poured more chakra into the jutsu, he could push Choji back. So naturally, he started to subtract chakra from it, allowing Choji to gain speed and momentum until he finally slammed against the Taki ninja, violently hurling him backwards. Everybody cringed at the thought of being steamrolled by such an attack. Yoro was now regretting his tactic. That jutsu was way more powerful than it appeared at first. At the very least, his defeat would be believable now. Gathering his strength, he managed to get back on his feet. "Proctor, I can't keep going," Yoro shouted, raising a hand. Choji apparently heard this as he cancelled his human bullet tank, and returned to his usual form. Since Yoro has forfeited, Choji is the winner of the match. Yugo declared. "Alright." Choji cheered enthusiastically as he returned to the stands. As for Yoro, he was carried away by a couple of medic nin. Upon returning to his team, Choji was approached by his teammates. "You did it, Choji." Ino cheered, patting him on the shoulder. "Yeah, good one," Shikamaru added. "It's good to see that at the very least one of us will go to the finals." "Make that too. I have no intention of losing my match," Ino defensively replied. "I wasn't implying anything about you, Ino." Shikamaru just shook his head. "You know, given their age, those Takigakure ninjas are surprisingly weak," Haku commented. What do you mean?" Naruto asked. "Well, let's say that when this round began, I wasn't betting on Tamaki-san and Choji-san making to the finals, given that of all the present ninja here, they have to be among the weakest," Haku explained. "Well, Tamaki-san had the luck of fighting an opponent who was allergic to her summons," Hinata piped in. "Too bad there are no people allergic to toads, or so I think," Naruto commented. "But then again, there would be no fun in winning like that." Sasuke overheard Team Kurenai's conversation. It seemed that the Taki ninja wouldn't be able to maintain their cover for much longer. It was a stroke of luck that Sasuke's team was the one keeping their secret. Karen would have noticed Yoro purposefully decreasing the power of his jutsu to let Choji win. Ino, being also a censor, would have noticed it as well, but she was just too happy for her teammates' victory to notice or care. "Alright, so far so good," Jiraiya said, pleased. "We had half the matches, and with the exception of that Suna girl, all the finalists are Konoha genin. And I'm sure that there will be more in the second half." "Well, there are still plenty of Konoha genin," Tsunade observed, and scanned the remaining competitors. "I'm glad that Naruto won, but it's a pity that he had to fight against Sakura. I want at least one of my medic students to make it to the finals. The world needs to see the value of our medic nin. I'm sure some of them will pass." "Sakura merely had bad luck," Jiraiya replied. Once again, the screen started to flash names, until it stopped and displayed the next two combatants. There was a collective gasp, followed by a deafening silence. Gaara's mouth curved into a smirk. "About time. I was getting tired of waiting." Chapter 24. Preliminaries, Part 2. Everybody looked at the screen displaying the names of the next two combatants, many of them with their mouths agape. Shino Aburame vs Gaara, "Oh man, that's all kinds of troublesome," Shikamaru commented. "Boy, poor Shino," Choji added. "Not even the three of us could beat that sand guy and he has to fight him on his own." All the eyes were on Shino, who as usual didn't openly display any kind of emotion. Then again, the bug-using ninja never saw Gaara in action, he merely heard about his exploits. "Good luck, pal," Kiba said, nudging the Aburame in the shoulder. "We'll be cheering for you," Tamaki added, smiling sympathetically at him. Both Shino and Gaara descended upon the arena and walked in front of each other. Yugo made sure that both genin were ready for the fight. "Begin," she shouted before making a chopping motion. Shino placed some distance between himself and his opponent, and spread his arms sideways. Two swarms of Kikai bugs emerged from underneath his sleeves, eliciting quite a few "eus" from people at the stands and commanded them to attack Gaara, who remained immobile, with his arms crossed. The deadly swarm of flying insects soon found itself slamming against a nearby impenetrable shield of sand. Shino mentally commanded the swarm to split into several groups, but a sand barrier would form whenever as massive bugs tried to get close to Gaara. Shino then pulled 3 kunai from his tool pouch and tossed them at the sand ninja. The results were the same. Whoa, that guy is untouchable. How the hell is Shino going to hit him? Naruto asked. He needs to find the weak point of that shield and exploit it, Kurenai replied. Does that sand barrier have a weak point? Haku skeptically asked. It looks like there's nothing that Shino can do to pierce it. Every jutsu has a weakness, Haku. Never forget that, Kurenai pointed out. Hinata activated her Byakugan and analyzed Gaara's sand shield. It seems like the sand is imbued with chakra, but not in the way of the usual ninjutsu. It's a different chakra. That has to be the power of his tailed beast, Naruto concluded. Boy, poor Shino, he got one of the worst possible opponents. Gaara decided that he had already gave Shino enough time to attack, and thought it was time to end the match. He made a hand seal. Wind release. Sand shuriken. Gaara shot several projectiles made of sand at an impossible high speeds. Shino managed to expertly dodge most of them, but some sliced his skin at several points. Unfortunately for the bug user, Gaara had just started. Making another hand seal, the sand formed 5 tentacles, and with another gesture, the hand appendages tried to lash or wrap themselves against Shino, forcing the Aburame into the defensive. Man, this is bad, Kiba noted, worried. Not only does that redhead have an impenetrable defense, but his sand also packs quite a punch. It's bad to say this, but I'm glad that I don't have to fight him. Don't lose hope. Shino is pretty strong, Tamaki interjected. I'm sure that he will think a way to, Proctor. I wish to forfeit, Shino calmly announced. There were a couple gasps, but given the power of Shino's opponent, nobody was surprised by such decision. Yugo looked at the Aburame. Are you sure? The purple-haired woman asked. I'm positive. There's no way I can win this fight, so it will be pointless to drag it out, Shino explained. Very well, she then motioned at Gaara. Winner of the fight, Gaara. As soon as Gaara was declared victor, all the sand returned to the gourd he carried on his back. The red-haired ninja walked toward Shino. You put a valiant effort. I don't remember any genin other than my siblings lasting this long against me, Gaara praised. Thank you. I'm afraid that my skill set was badly matched against yours. I believe some of my fellow Konoha genin would have given you a better fight, Shino replied. Maybe. I'm sure I'll find it soon. While Gaara and Shino returned to the stands, Jiraiya and Tsunade were talking to each other once again. That brat is the kid you helped in Suna some years ago, am I right? Tsunade asked. Jiraiya nodded in return. Indeed. His power is nothing short of impressive. I'm afraid to think what would have become of him if I never fixed his seal. His asshole of a father wouldn't have been of much help either. I wonder how Naruto would have fared against him, Tsunade wondered. We might get to see that, given that they're both in the finals now, Jiraiya observed. Which means that I need to accelerate Naruto's training. After Gaara was congratulated by his teammates and Shino was comforted by his, all the eyes were once again in the screen flashing names. More than half of the genin there had already fought, so those who still hadn't were starting to grow antsy. The screen displayed the names of the next 2 combatants. Hinata Hyuga vs T, your turn, Hinata. Go and kick some ass. Naruto cheered. Alright. The white-eyed girl nodded, before heading to the arena. Interesting. Hinata was kidnapped by Kumo ninja when she was a toddler, and she has to now fight against another ninja of that village. What are the chances? Kurenai wondered. Meanwhile, T was also getting prepared for her upcoming match. You better not lose like this moron did, you get that? Karui told her female teammate in a not-so-friendly way. Yes. Don't worry, I have this under control. She assured. T is gonna put on an impressive show. All who watches will have their heads blown. As she fights in front of a crowd, she will make her village feel proud. Killer B rapped while waving his hands wildly. Thank you, sensei, I'll do my best. The blonde girl replied before going to the arena. Once the 2 kunoichi were in front of each other, Yugo made sure they were ready to fight. Begin. Both girls adopted a fighting stance and in Hinata's case, activated her Byakugan, and after a few seconds of eyeing each other, Hinata took the initiative and dashed at her, ready to deliver a palm strike to her chest. T blocked Hinata's attack by grabbing her by the wrist with one hand as she tried to stab the Hyuga with the other, but Hinata grabbed T's other wrist as well. After struggling for a bit, both girls broke from each other's grasp and jumped backwards. "You're good. I wouldn't expect a foreign ninja knowing the proper way to block the gentle fist," Hinata praised. "I did my homework," T smiled at her. "You're good too, not to mention pretty." Hinata was taken aback. "P pretty? Sure. Short hair doesn't look good in most girls, but you managed to pull it off," T began. "Plus you have a really soft skin. You have to tell me what you used to, goddammit T, stop flirting with the enemy." Karui bellowed from the stands. "Focus. Alright, sorry Karui." T fearfully apologized as she grew more serious. "I'm sorry Hinata-chan, but I'll have to harm that cute face of yours." "Hinata-chan? Cute face? Flirting?" Hinata wondered to herself. "Is this girl?" T flew through several hand seals. Lightning release. Lightning flash. Suddenly, T's body started to glow with an extremely white bright light, illuminating the entire place. Everybody instinctively shielded their eyes, since it was almost like looking directly into the sun. And in Hinata's case, the Byakugan made it even worse. "Aargh. My eyes," she yelled as she brought her hands to her eyes and deactivated her Byakugan. T smirked, having obtained the desired effect, and pulled a bunch of kunai from her tool pouch and tossed them all at the blinded Hyuga. However, Hinata's eyesight returned earlier than T had expected, and pulling her own kunai, she used it to deflect the flying knives aside with a series of swings while she slowly stepped back. "She's a ranged fighter. If I have to win this, I can't let her to stay away from me. I need to get closer," Hinata thought. The Hyuga launched herself at the Kumo Kunoichi, ready to hit her with a palm strike. However, rather trying to grab her like she did before, T made several hand seals while jumping back. Lightning release. Thunder shield. T's whole body crackled with electricity as blue sparks ran through her body. Hinata didn't have her Byakugan activated, but she realized that whatever that was, it wouldn't be wise to touch her and cancelled her attack. "You stopped," T stated. "Even without my Byakugan, I know that you created some sort of protection around you that will harm me if I touch you, am I right?" Hinata asked. T smirked at her. "It seems that you're more than just a pretty face." "Yeah, you nailed it. As you probably guessed now, I'm not very comfortable in close combat. Omoi and Karui take care of that. I'm the team medic and range specialist. That's why I learned this kind of jutsu in case I can't rely on them to protect me." "You thought about everything. You're a very dedicated kunoichi," Hinata praised. "Ah, thanks. It's nice to see somebody recognizing my skill," T replied, while glancing at Karui, who scoffed. "Though sadly for you, that shield won't do much good in the long run," Hinata commented while she made several hand seals. T smirked once again. "You think so? Okay, come and try to test my shield's effectiveness yourself." "I plan to," Hinata said before launching at T once more. T watched Hinata readying another palm strike. She chuckled. "Do you think you can overpower my shield with brute foe?" But much to her shock, that's exactly what happened. Hinata struck the Kumo Kunoichi in the abdomen, causing her to bend over. Hinata landed another hit on her jaw, sending her backwards. "What?" Karui asked, incredulous. "Alright, show her who's boss, Hinata." Naruto cheered. Hinata couldn't help but blush a bit upon hearing her blonde teammates' encouraging words. Still, she forced herself to push Naruto out of her mind and focus solely on the recovering T, who was rubbing her jaw, her shield no longer active. How? How could you?" T asked, incredulous. Then, she noticed something about Hinata's hands. They were also crackling with electricity. "What? You're a lightning user too? But Hyugas don't use ninjutsu." Hinata just shrugged. "I'm not your typical Hyuga," her Byakugan activated once again. "And I'm sorry, but I have to end this now." T panicked as Hinata approached her and tried to make the hand seals of her blinding jutsu, but she wasn't fast enough. Lightning release. Lightning, 8 trigrams, 16 palms. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. Hinata guessed that the weaker version of her clan's signature combo would be enough to deal with her, and her assumptions turned out to be correct. After her attack was over, T laid on the floor, bruised and unable to move, but still alive nonetheless. Yugo went to check the fallen Kumo Kunoichi, and upon seeing her state, she took a decision. T can no longer fight. Winner, Hinata Hyuga. Hinata sighed in relief. Karui groaned, but her groans were drowned by Naruto's loud cheers. A couple medic nin arrived to take tea away, while Hinata returned to the stands with her team. "Way to go, Hinata." Naruto pat her on the back. "I knew you could do it." Hinata's cheeks slightly turned pink. Thank you. She was a really strong opponent. And if her words are to be believed, she wasn't even an actual fighter, Kurenai added. Kumo is usually very rigorous with the training of their ninjas. Well, that dude Tenten beat didn't look strong, Naruto pointed out. Because he was a close combat specialist, one of the best opponents Tenten could have faced. If Tenten had faced a long-range specialist, like say, that Suna Kunoichi, I don't think she would have risen victorious, Kurenai explained. Naruto nodded, then turned at Haku. "Alright Haku, only you're left. Be sure to win, we can't go into the finals without you." Haku smiled at Naruto. "Don't worry, I don't plan on losing. There are very few genin left. Maybe Haku-kun will be the next one to fight," Hinata said, noticing that the screen was shuffling names once again. However, it wouldn't be Haku's turn just yet. Kiba Inuzuka vs Karen Uzumaki, alright, finally my turn. Kiba cheered as he jumped into the arena. "Come on Akamaru, we got lucky we got such an easy opponent." "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" an enraged Karen asked. Kakashi sighed. "I thought that I had taught Kiba not to underestimate any opponent. Guess that I need to work more on that," the copy ninja thought. "Don't let him get to you," Shizune advised her. Now, Inuzukas usually rely in moving fast and hitting hard, so if you keep track of him you shouldn't have any problems. "Don't let that dog blindside you either." Karen nodded. "Don't worry sensei, I'll make you proud." Kiba and Karen walked to the center of the arena. Once Yugo checked they were ready, she announced the beginning of the fight. "Begin." Both combatants wasted no time and made a hand seal with both hands. Beast Mimicry Art. 4 Legs Jutsu. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Kiba stood in all fours like an animal. There was a thin veil of chakra flickering all over his body. His fangs and fingernails grew a little, but enough to give him an animal-like appearance. Meanwhile, 4 clones appeared alongside Karen. "You idiot, you think that impresses me? You only gave me more targets to hit. Come on Akamaru." Kiba shouted before charging at Karen, his loyal dog rushing behind. Karen and her clones pulled out a kunai each, and got ready for the fight. They all noticed Kiba reaching into his tool pouch and pulled something the redheads weren't able to see. "Take that," Kiba shouted while tossing the items at Karen's feet, which exploded in a cloud of smoke. Smoke bombs? Karen thought. By focusing their chakra on their noses, members of the Inuzuka clan could develop a sense of smell so fine it was almost as good as their canine companions. This allowed them track their enemies by their smell, usually in places with no or very little light. So naturally, the logical way of using this advantage is to create a situation of blindness for both combatants. With the enemy blinded, the Inuzukas could move for the kill. Sure, they could be heard, but that could be easily fixed with stealth. Unfortunately for Kiba, he did forget that he was fighting an enemy that had another sense that could use to replace eyesight. When Kiba and Akamaru moved to hit Karen or one of her clones, all of them smelled the same. Their attacks were expertly blocked, much to their shock, and in turn were kicked out of the smoke cloud, which dissipated on its own a few seconds later. "What? How were you able to see me?" Kiba asked, outraged, as he stood up. "I'm a sensor, you moron. I can pinpoint your location at all times, so trying to blind me is useless," Karen replied. "Alright then. I didn't want to resort to this so soon, but I need to win this." Kiba pulled another object from his tool pouch, something very small, and tossed it at Akamaru, whose white fur turned red. "The hell?" Karen asked. "Did you feed your dog a soldier pill?" "Indeed I did." Kiba then ate another pill himself. "Now the real fight begins. Come on Akamaru." Kiba hunched over and made a hand seal, and the now red Akamaru jumped at his back. Beast Mimicry Art. Beast Human Clone. After a smoke explosion, everybody saw that Akamaru had turned into a perfect copy of Kiba. Karen was unimpressed. "You know I still can tell which is which, right?" Karen asked, as she adjusted her glasses. Human chakra and animal chakra couldn't be more different. Though in your case, just barely. HMPF. "You must think I'm trying to trick you," Kiba retorted. "I'm going to tear you to shreds." Kiba and his human-turned dog dashed at Karen once again. The redhead and her clones adopted a defensive stance, though neither of them were ready for what was about to happen. fang passing fang. Kiba and Akamaru turned into living drills, flying at Karen at high speed. The clones instinctively went to meet them in combat. All of them poofed the moment the spinning Inuzuka and his dog made contact with them. But the attack didn't end there. Once Karen's clones were destroyed, Kiba and Akamaru went for the real Karen, who could barely dodge the fierce attacks. Damn it, why the hell did I have to underestimate the mutt? Karen cursed inwardly. Come on Karen, think. There has to be some weak point too. Oh, I know. After dodging an attack, Karen's hand reached her tool pouch, and echoing Kiba's actions from before, she pulled out a few smoke bombs and threw them the moment Kiba and Akamaru dashed at her, spinning once again. While Kiba had an amazing sense of smell, it's too hard, not to say impossible, to use it when you're rotating at high speed inside a cloud of smoke. Disoriented, Kiba and Akamaru were forced to stop. You have quick mind, but you're only delaying the inevitable, Kiba taunted. You think so? Karen asked back. Yes. You can't avoid me forever. I'm faster and stronger than you, and you will run out of smoke bombs. Then you have nowhere to hide, Kiba replied. Karen chuckled. Oh, you'll see that I have an excellent hiding spot, Karen retorted back. Kiba was about to say something when the smoke started to dissipate, revealing Karen's figure. Kiba was about to attack, when much to his shock, he realized that Karen was holding him prisoner, or better said, the transformed Akamaru, wrapped with some strange chains that came from Karen's back. The spectacled redhead was holding a kunai to his neck. A lot of people think that being a censor is only good for looking missing people, and tend to ignore the many uses it has for battle. Such as locating enemies inside a cloud of smoke. Karen smirked at Kiba, while she pressed a kunai against Akamaru's neck, drawing some blood. Now you have to ask yourself, what's more important to you, becoming a chunin, or your doggy? Kiba was left speechless for a few seconds, as his brain thought possible ways to rescue his four-legged best friend. But he was alone, without any kind of support, and he couldn't surprise Karen. He gritted his teeth, while cursing something inaudible. Okay, you win, Kiba admitted, sighing. He looked at Yugo. Proticore, I wish to forfeit. Yugo nodded. Very well. The winner of this match is Karen Uzumaki. Karen released Akamaru, who reverted back into a dog, and walked to Kiba, whimpering in guilt. Hey, don't feel bad for that, Kiba reassured as he scratched the dog's ear. It can happen to anybody. We just got overconfident, that's all. Next time we will do better. Akamaru let out a weak bark as an apology. After that, both winner and loser returned to the stands. I won, I won, I won, I won, I won. Karen cheered, bouncing up and down upon returning to her team. Good job, Karen. I knew you could win. Shizune praised her as she gave her a pat on her shoulder. We know, we saw it, Sakura rolled her eyes. You only say that because you're jealous you can't be as great as I am. Karen childishly stuck her tongue at Sakura, then she turned at Sasuke. Did you see that, Sasuke-kun? Sasuke sighed. Didn't you hear Sakura? We were actually watching. This time, it was Sakura who stuck her tongue at Karen. Man, I'm so glad that Karen Nichan won, Naruto told his teammates. Uzumaki clan for the win. Once again, the screen started to flash names at an imperceptible speed. Only 6 people remained. All of them were looking intently at the screen until it stopped, this time much quicker than before. Ino Yamanaka vs Karui, about time, Ino said as she headed towards the arena. Good luck, Ino, Choji told her. What he said, Shikamaru added. I can't afford to lose, Karui said as she eyed her opponent. If none of us make it to the final round, Reikage-sama will flay us alive. Thank goodness my rival doesn't look too though. I wouldn't get too confident. Maybe she's pretending to be weak to make you lower your guard, Omoi began. And she has some sort of super devastating bloodline limit that didn't show yet because she didn't want to draw attention, and then lots of villages will go after her for, don't be such a fool, or I'll crack your skull. Karui's not gonna lose, her foe doesn't confuse, and she can even brag, since the match is on the bag. Killer B interrupted Omoi with one of his raps. Thank you, sensei. Unlike those two, I won't lose, Karui firmly stated. Once the two kunoichi were in front of each other, the proctor checked they were also ready to fight. She made a chopping hand motion. Begin. Karui wasted no time, and like her male teammate, the first thing she did was unsheath her katana and charge at Ino. Ino smirked and pulled something out of her tool pouch. Karui saw it was a smoke bomb. She couldn't stop the blonde from using it. The redhead was forced to stop as she lost track of her enemy. Unfortunately for her, Ino was completely aware of where she was. Mind Scream Jutsu. Karui felt as if 100 voices screamed at the top of their lungs into her ears. She dropped her katana as her hands instinctively covered her ears in pain, while she stumbled back. The smoke dispelled shortly afterwards. My Mind Scream Jutsu doesn't have much range, but it's pretty effective, don't you think? Ino asked, her mouth forming a smirk. And it serves its purpose of keeping you far away from me. Judging by your katana, you're a melee type, aren't you? And I guess that you're a long-range ninjutsu specialist, Karui replied back. Smart. Very smart. But like my teammate T demonstrated before, we trained to eliminate our weaknesses, she said as she pulled out a couple shuriken. Oh, you know how to use shuriken, that changes everything. Ino replied in mock terror as she shook her hands in a theatrical way. Now I'm going to give you a reason to be afraid for real. Lightning release. Shuriken lightning transmission. The Kumo Kunoichi infused her shuriken with lightning chakra and tossed them forward in a wide angle, creating a lightning chain between the two of them. If you think I'm afraid of that, think again. Ino shouted before nimbly jumping over the lightning chain, landing on her feet. That's the best you have? Karui smirked. Not even close. This time, Karui tossed a dozen shuriken, all of them forming lighting chains with each other, creating what could be described as an electric spider web. An electric spider web that was flying at Ino. The Yamanaka Arias only had a couple seconds to choose which gap she could use to avoid the attack. She jumped through the gap she thought was the biggest, but miscalculated the jump and her leg grazed a lightning chain, electrocuting her. Fortunately for Ino, the shock was painful but not powerful enough to knock her out. She only needed to shake the numbness of her body and get back to her feet as soon as possible. However, when she was trying to do that, Karui had already picked back her katana and rushed at Ino. She kicked the blonde, knocking her back on her back. Wasting no time, Karui planted a foot on Ino's chest, and pointed her katana at her face. Say it, Karui ordered. Ino cursed inwardly. She knew that there was nothing she could do. Fine. I give up. Winner of the match, Karui. Yugo announced. Her victory already secured, Karui sheathed her katana, and helped Ino on her feet. It was a nice match. You fought with fierceness and courage, Karui told Ino. Ino merely sighed. Thanks, but guess it wasn't enough to win. Keep training, and I'm sure that you'll make it far. There will always be more exams in the future. Both girls returned to her teams, one being comforted for her loss and the other congratulated for her win. After that, everybody else turned again to the screen, which flashed the 4 remaining names for a few seconds before showing the second to last and by elimination, the last as well preliminary match. Kankuro vs Fu, about time. Kankuro scoffed as he headed down to the arena. Yay, my turn tilde, Fu happily chirped as she flew down to the arena. So that means that I will fight against Rock Lee for the last match, Haku concluded. Too bad I have to fight against one of the few Konoha genin that I know almost nothing about. From what Neji Ni-san told me, Lee-san can't use ninjutsu nor genjutsu for some reason, and he uses exclusively taijutsu, Hinata informed the Ice Ninja. Which means that as long as you keep the distance between the two of you, you should be fine, Naruto added. Easier said than done. Lee-san looks like a though opponent, Haku replied while looking at Lee, who in turn had all his attention focused on the second to last fight. You know, I'm kind of interested in Kankuro, Naruto mentioned. He was training to be a ninja puppeteer. I want to see how they fight. Once both fighters were ready, Yugo signaled they could start. Begin. Kankuro wasted no time and unslung the wrapped package at his back, and unwrapped it as well, revealing his puppet, a 3-eyed, 4-armed humanoid with jagged teeth and spiky brown hairstyle protruding from the top of its head and framing the sides, its body covered by a dull brown ragged cloak. Now, everybody will see the power of the ninja puppeteers of Suna. Behold Karasu, my first puppet. Kankuro boasted as he created several chakra threads from his fingers and latched them to the puppet. Now, let's begin. Kankuro made a hand motion, and Karasu opened its mouth and fired a barrage of senbon at the green-haired girl. Wings sprouted once again from Fu's hips and flew high into the air to avoid being hit. Kankuro smirked. Do you think you can escape my puppet? There's no escape from Karasu. Kankuro shouted while motioning his arms upwards. Karasu elevated in mid-air and dived at the flying Fu, who flew back while making a few hand seals. Actually, I believe I can hide. Fu replied, never losing her smile. Hiding in scale powder jutsu. Fu exhaled shiny powder from her mouth, forming a bright, sparkly cloud that blinded everybody who looked at it. Kankuro instinctively shielded his eyes, which incidentally made Karasu move in a random direction, getting out of the way and leaving an opening for Fu to attack. Gotcha! The Taki Kunoichi shouted as she dived at Kankuro, Takigakure whirlwind. Fu's fist connected Kankuro's face, making a sickening crunch, causing those who heard it to wince. Fu, however, was a bit confused. When she hit Kankuro, she didn't feel as if she hit flesh, skin and bone, but a much harder material, like wood. And to further her confusion, Kankuro's face started to peel and fall off, revealing Karasu. She asked dumbly. Haha, it's me who's got you. Kankuro said from behind. With a few finger motions, Kankuro made Karasu to trap Fu with a four-armed hug. Now surrender, or my puppet will crush you to death. You're a funny guy, Fu replied, unable to look Kankuro in the eyes. I never seen a ninja who uses such contraptions to fight. Yeah, whatever. Do you surrender or not? Nah, I don't think so, Fu nonchalantly replied as she broke from Karasu's deathly embrace, blowing all four arms away from the main body. Whoa, Kankuro shouted, shocked. Not even the adults were strong enough to break Karasu's tight grip. What the hell do they feed you, girl? Sorry for breaking your toy, by the way, Fu replied. Her apology seemed genuine. It looks expensive. It is. But it's not a toy, and it's not broken. Now behold. And with more hand motions, Kankuro reattached the four arms to the main body. Good as new. No matter how hard you hit it, you won't be able to break my puppet. I'm starting to like your puppet more and more, Fu mentioned, clearly intrigued. Do you mind if I borrow it? Ha, like hell I'll give this work of art to anybody that what the hell. Kankuro yelled in shock. Much to his horror, Fu had created chakra threads from her fingertips and attached them to Karasu as well. You can use chakra threads too? Fu shrugged. Yeah, can't everybody? She asked. Both Fu and Kankuro started to wrestle with their chakra threads for a few seconds, until Fu managed to overpower Kankuro and snatch Karasu from his grasp. Hey, give me back Karasu, you thief. Now your toy is mine. She childishly shouted, before making some hand motions in order to make Karasu attack, but all she did was make the puppet to move around in an erratic pattern while waving all four arms wildly. It looked as if the puppet was having a seizure. Boy, this is much harder than it looks. Of course it is. It takes years of practice to learn to control a single puppet. Now give me back Karasu. Kankuro angrily repeated as he charged at Fu. Oh well, I thought it would be fun to use this to defeat you, but guess that I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Fu dispelled the chakra threads, releasing Karasu, as wings sprouted from her hips, and flew at Kankuro, her right fist reared back. Kankuro, who was charging at Fu as well, didn't have time to react or use the body replacement as the green-haired girl's fist connected with his left eye, hurling him spinning backwards, making a loud thud upon falling. Kankuro groaned, dizzy. After a few seconds, he managed to stand up, but after a hit like that, there was nothing much he could do. Proctor, I wish to forfeit. Alright, winner of the match, Fu. Yugo declared. Fu cheered loudly, while a couple medic nin carried Kankuro away. Well, maybe he lost, but his puppet was pretty impressive, Naruto commented, as he saw the Suna ninja being taken away. Plus he had the bad luck to fight against somebody who happened to know how to use chakra threads, not to mention being insanely strong, Haku mentioned. Seriously, where does she hide the muscle? Because that didn't look like Tsunade-sama's super strength technique. You can worry about that later, Haku. Now you have a match to win, Kurenai reminded him. The giant screen displayed the names of the last two remaining genin. Rock Lee vs Haku Yuki. I can't believe it took this long so I could fight. Lee enthusiastically shouted. Yash, if they made me wait any longer, my flames of youth would have burned me on the inside. If it makes you feel better, think that they left the best for the last. Guy replied just as excitedly. Now go there and make me feel proud. Lee nodded, and jumped into the arena. And I won't make only you proud, sensei. I'll be sure to impress Sakura-san with my youthful and powerful moves. Lee thought while casting a glance at the pinkette. Haku got there at a much calmer pace. He looked at his team, who smiled at him and in Naruto's case, gave him a thumbs up, then he looked at Lee's team, or better said, as the sole female member. I better be careful not to hurt Lee much. Tenten-chan wouldn't appreciate me injuring her teammate. He then shook his head. What the hell I'm thinking? I don't even know how strong Lee is to think that. And I should focus on winning this. Zabuza-sama is watching me as well, besides Yugo-san. I can't disappoint them. Are you ready? Yugo asked the genin. Both nodded in return. In that case, let the last preliminary match begin. Lee wasted no time and dashed at Haku, his fist already reared back. In less than a second, he was already in close combat range, and the green-clad genin punched Haku in the face. However, Haku expertly deflected his fist with a light tap to the wrist, and dashed past him as he pulled something from between his kimono. Lee turned around and saw a growing puddle of water forming at Haku's feet. Lee could see that the water was coming from a ceiling scroll. He deduced Haku would use that water for his jutsu. You're fast. There are very few genin that are able to match my speed, Lee commented. Thanks. For ninja who aren't physically strong like myself, building up speed is essential, Haku replied. Some would say that admitting to have a subpar physical endurance was foolish, but in this case, it didn't matter. It's not that Lee wouldn't do anything different. And you used the window of opportunity to summon that water. Lee wasn't deterred in the slightest. Alright, let's see what's stronger, your ice, or my flames of youth. Haku smiled, and started making hand seals at an almost imperceptible rate. As you wish, Lee-san. Water release. Water clone jutsu. The water from the puddle started to rise and take the shape of 3 vaguely humanoid figures that quickly turned into exact replicas of Haku. The 4 of them scattered across the arena. Nice trick, but I know which one of you is the real one. Lee declared as he dashed at one of the Hakus and jumped at him. Konoha Whirlwind. However, the moment Lee kicked Haku, the ice ninja burst into an explosion of water that completely soaked the green-clad genin. After a moment of confusion, Lee realized what happened. I see. You used body replacement with one of your clones, just like Naruto-kun did. Haku shrugged. We're teammates after all. The 3 Hakus then pulled several senbon each and started to pelt Lee with them. The green-clad ninja managed to dodge most, but some were embedded on his flesh, causing some pain even if they didn't cause much damage. Lee managed to reach to another Haku, and delivered a punch to his face, once again making it turn into water, soaking Lee once more. Haku and his remaining clone decided to dash at Lee from opposing sides before he destroyed the last clone. Still, Lee managed to block both attacks, and in a display of insane speed, punched the real Haku back and destroyed the last clone, who soaked Lee even further. Fighting your clones was a worthy challenge, but I think that this ends now, Lee said as he prepared to attack the real Haku. I couldn't agree more, Haku replied as he made a hand seal. Lee charged at Haku, but realized that he wasn't moving as fast as he should. He was also cold, very cold. Ice was growing all over his body, slowing him down and trapping him inside a block of ice. You probably thought that some water wouldn't hurt you, and didn't care about being soaked when you destroyed my clones, Haku stated as he walked towards the frozen Lee, whose head was the only part of his body not encased in ice. Surrender, you lost. Surrender so soon? That would be mostly unyouthful. Lee replied, as he tried to struggle. There's no way for you to break that ice. Only a Jonin-level ninja could. It's impossible to break free. Lee smirked confidently at Haku. It wasn't a smirk of smugness, but the joy of taking a worthy challenge. Impossible only means that it hasn't been done yet. Lee then started to glow with a green light, as the ice encasing him started to tremble. Even if he wasn't a sensor, Haku noticed that Lee's chakra levels were dramatically increasing. The ice block started to crack. No, it can't be. Gate of opening, open. The ice block trapping Lee shattered in a million pieces, releasing the green-clad ninja, who was smiling confidently. Back in the stands, Lee's display didn't go unnoticed to the more veteran ninja watching. Guy, did you teach Lee to open the celestial gates? Kakashi asked the green-clad Jonin with an air of incredulity. Indeed I did, my rival. Guy replied, excited as ever, especially now that he managed to surprise the copy ninja, something of a rare feat. But that's something extremely dangerous to teach a mere genin. Kakashi protested. I couldn't agree more. But Lee is more than capable of handling the backlash of the gates, and he knows its limits and which situation should he use them. Guy explained. Kurenai, who heard the conversation, was worried. If that kid is able to use the celestial gates, then Haku is in trouble. Naruto and Hinata noticed their Jonin sensei's reaction, and decided that they should get some answers. Kurenai sensei. What are those celestial gates Kakashi sensei and Bushy Brows sensei talked about? Naruto asked. As you probably learned in the academy, our chakra system has 8 spots that act as dams that regulate the chakra that flows through our body, Kurenai began. However, there is a way to temporarily open those dams, increasing the chakra flowing through the body. This has a multitude of positive side effects, such as increased strength, speed and power. But it has a downside, doesn't it? Hinata guessed. Kurenai nodded at her. Yes. This power boost is temporary, and when it ends, there's a massive backlash that damages your body, which becomes worse the more gates you open. In some cases, the damage might be irreversible. And if you open all 8 gates, while it will give you the power of a god, you'll die shortly afterwards. Naruto and Hinata pondered their sensei's words. Now they both also shared her worry for the ice ninja. Guy sensei, how many gates can Lee-san open? Hinata asked. I'm glad you asked. Lee can open up to 5 gates already. Quite a feat, don't you think so? Guy stated proudly. While most genin didn't know if that was a lot or not, all the jonin visibly choked. Kurenai looked as if she was going to have a heart attack. Haku, the genjutsu mistress yelled. You can't let him open more gates. You have to finish this as soon as possible. Don't be afraid, Kurenai. Lee knows that this match isn't a matter of life or death. He won't risk neither his rivals nor his own safety opening more gates than necessary. Guy interceded. However, his words did little to soothe Kurenai. That was a nice warm-up. Let's fight for real. Lee shouted as he dashed at Haku, fist raised ready to strike. Haku managed to dodge the attack and Lee punched the floor, making the whole instance tremble. Haku gulped, uneasy. His strength and speed increased dramatically. If I let him hit me, then it's over, the ice ninja thought as he started to think possible strategies to counter Lee's massive power boost. For the most part, Haku tried to run away from Lee, trying to stall for time. He either dodged or redirected Lee's vicious punches and kicks, but never blocked them. If he tried to block them, it would be over. Are you trying to see which one of us gets tired first? Lee asked, not slowing down on his assault. Very well, I accept your challenge. Damn it, this doesn't look good. Haku continued dodging hits, but he was starting to run out of breath. Suddenly, an idea formed in his brain. I believe this could work. Haku thought, and made a single hand seal. Hide mist jutsu. In a few seconds, a thick cloud covered the battlefield. Lee lost track of his opponent and was forced to stop his attack. In the stands, Kurenai visibly sighed. Good job, kid. That might give you some time to recover, and maybe even you can catch him off guard, the red-eyed jonin thought. Meanwhile, inside the fog, both combatants were planning their next move. This jutsu is easy to learn and cast. But without silent killing, it's nowhere near as useful as it could be. My stealth isn't near as good as Zabuza-sama's, but I think it will be enough for this opponent. Or so I hope. Haku-san forced me on the defensive. He'll try to ambush me any time. If I know where the attack comes from before I give him time to move, victory will be mine. A whistle alerted the green-clad genin, who caught in his hand a trio of senbon a second before they embedded on his neck, and tossed them away. Lee immediately dashed towards where the senbon came from, but Haku had already moved. Again, the whistle of senbon flying alerted Lee. This time, he pulled out a kunai and parried them, while running towards Haku's location. The ice ninja moved already, but this time Lee heard the sound of his steps. An idea formed in his mind. When a new barrage of senbon came, Lee countered it by tossing several kunai in the opposite direction, which stopped the much lighter weapons and continued flying at Haku. Paying attention to the sound, Lee dashed at the same place Haku was running to end. Konoha Whirlwind. Lee's flying kick impacted Haku in the torso, sending the ice ninja flying backwards, spinning mid-air. The mist dispelled almost instantly. Oh man, that doesn't look good for Haku. Naruto muttered. Have faith in him, Naruto. Haku hasn't played all his cards yet, Kurenai told the blonde, who looked at her a bit puzzled. Your tactics are clever, and your skill is worth admiring, Haku-san. Lee said as he walked towards Haku, who tried to stand on his feet as fast as he could. I feel the fight is already over, but if you wish to continue, I won't deter you. Yeah, I'm not going to surrender yet, Haku said as he clutched the pained sides of his torso. At least not until I tried everything. Very well. Opponents who fight until the very end are the ones I like to fight the most. Your flames of youth burn bright as well, even if not as much as mine. Lee excitedly shouted as he prepared to finish the fight. If that's the case, then take this. Haku shouted back as he made several hand seals. Suddenly, Rock Lee found himself trapped inside another block of ice, with only his head free. He wasn't afraid in the slightest, this was something he could easily break out from. Yet for some reason, this ice felt different than the ice Haku had used before. This is your trump card? I'm very disappointed, Haku-san, to see you using something that proved to be inefficient before, Lee said, shaking his head. Try breaking that ice then, if you're so sure, Haku challenged. Very well. Lee tried to either break or melt the ice with the force of his chakra, but this ice proved to be much sturdier than before. I see that there's more to this jutsu than I initially thought, but it doesn't matter. There's no ice my flames of youth can't melt. Gate of healing, open. With an additional power boost, the ice wouldn't stand a chance. But much to Lee's shock, the second gate remained closed. Gate of healing, open. 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 Save yourself the effort. You won't be able to open more gates, Haku calmly told Lee as he made a hand seal. Spikes of ice started to grow near Lee's face, who flinched when a spike came way too close to his cheek. Now surrender. There's no way you can break that ice. I don't want to inflict you unnecessary damage. Lee struggled one last time, but his efforts were in vain. Despite being taught to never give up in the long run, Guy also taught Lee that there were times in which you should fall back and fight another day. It seemed to be one of those situations. I see there's nothing I can't do. Alright, I admit that this time, victory belongs to you. But don't think this ends here. Once I redouble my training, I shall challenge you again and win. Lee proudly declared. Haku couldn't help but smile. I'll be looking forward it. Proctor, I wish to forfeit. Lee told Yugo. The purple-haired woman raised an eyebrow at him. Are you sure? Very sure. The proctor shrugged. Alright, winner of the match, and last finalist, Haku Yuki. After being declared winner, Haku fell on his knees and slumped, exhausted. Yugo walked past him, and put a hand on his shoulder. Good job, kid, she whispered in his ear. Haku-san? Would you mind getting me out of this block of ice? Lee asked. Oh, right. Sorry, I kinda forgot. Haku replied, chuckling a bit. However, rather than doing a hand seal or something similar, Haku tapped Lee's forehead, and suddenly the ice vanished as if it was never there. It took Lee a few seconds to realize what had happened. Wait a minute, that ice. That was a genjutsu. Lee exclaimed in realization. Indeed. Had you reached that conclusion a minute earlier, and I would have lost the match, Haku told him. Lee gritted his teeth in anger, and his eyes started to water. He had the victory right there and let it slip between his bandaged fingers. Haku was afraid of what the genin of the thick eyebrows would do after realizing he was tricked. But then he wiped his tears and smiled brightly. Oh, I can't get mad at you for a mistake I made. Lee said in an oddly cheerful tone. I'll train even harder to make sure such thing never happens the next time. And if it happens, I'll run 100 laps around the village, on my hands, with one hand, while carrying a boulder. Haku was a bit taken aback by Lee's extreme self-punishment, but didn't say anything. And you keep training as well, so when the day come that we clash again, you will still be a worthy adversary. Lee said. Haku smiled. Don't worry, I have no plans on getting any weaker. With that, both combatants returned to their teams. Good one, Haku. Naruto cheered as he pulled the ice ninja into a bear hug. The three of us are going to the finals. You were amazing down there. There were times in which I was afraid you'd lose, Hinata added. Thank you both, Haku replied. Though luck played a role in my victory. Had Lee realized of my genjutsu, he would have won. But he didn't, Kurenai interjected. The beauty and the danger of a genjutsu is that many times it comes from not being identified as such in time. You did pretty good, Haku, and your victory is completely deserved. Meanwhile, Lee, this time not holding back his tears, walked towards his sensei. Guy sensei, I'm sorry I lost. I brought shame to both of us. I'll accept whatever punishment you deign appropriate, Lee glumly told his sensei. You idiot! Guy yelled as he knocked Lee on his back with a punch to the jaw, drawing everybody's attention. Guy-sensei? Tenten fearfully asked. You think that your defeat brings me shame? It does not. It brings me joy like no other, because even if you lost, you gave it all and showed everybody the results of your hard work. Guy shouted excitedly as he started to cry as well. There's no shame in losing if your heart remains unconquered. This won't be the last defeat you face, that's for sure. Life is full of failure. But that doesn't matter as long as we keep going on and fight for what we love. Guy-sensei. Oh, sorry for thinking that I had ashamed you, you are so right. Lee passionately exclaimed as he hugged his sensei. It's okay, Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Much to everybody's shock, the makeshift arena turned into a beach where the sun was falling. Waves started to crash against the shore as master and student hugged each other. Okay, enough of that. Jiraiya shouted, making Guy and Lee to break their hug, dispelling the illusion. So, the preliminaries are over. Congratulations to all of you who passed on to the finals. Said finalists cheered in joy. Can all the finalists come down? Yugo asked, and the genin did as she instructed. Now, the final part of the exam will be held 1 month from today and will be like a tournament of one-on-one fights, which will end the moment we have a champion, Jiraiya explained. And said champion becomes Chunin? Haku guessed. Yugo shook her head. No. There will be several examiners that will review your performance. Their reports will be sent to the Hokage and his advisors, who will decide the new Chunin based on them. It's possible to lose your first fight, and still earn a promotion. But remember that if you win, you'll get to fight more, and have a greater chance to impress the examiners. Wait, the Hokage gets to decide if I am a Chunin or not? Karui asked, a bit indignant. Sorry, I mean the Hokage for Konoha ninja. For non-Konoha ninja like yourself, the reports will be sent to the head of your villages, who will decide if you deserve to be Chunin or not, Yugo clarified. Jiraiya let out a hearty chuckle. It would be incredibly unfair if it was up to me to decide the promotions of foreign ninja, don't you think so? It's common sense. The matchups for the finals will be decided randomly, just like the preliminaries. If you look up, the screen will display the first round of fights. The giant screen above them flashed to life once more, displaying the 12 names. First match, Sasuke Uchiha vs Haku Yuki. Second match, Choji Akamichi vs Karui. Third match, Naruto Uzumaki vs Temari. Fourth match, Hinata Hyuga vs Tamaki. Fifth match, Tenten vs Gaara. Sixth match, Karen Uzumaki vs Fu. Seventh match, winner of the first match vs winner of the second match. Eighth match, winner of the third match vs winner of the fourth match. Ninth match, winner of the fifth match vs winner of the sixth match. Final match, winner of the seventh match vs winner of the eighth match vs winner of the ninth match. Sasuke and Haku glanced at each other, both trying to hide their reactions. Karui smirked as she looked confidently at Choji, who looked at her nervously. Naruto and Temari smiled at each other, showing their eagerness to test their skills against each other. Hinata and Tamaki shared an look of indifference, before they both politely smiled at each other. Tenten looked at Gaara a bit afraid, who didn't bother to look back at her. Karen shot Fu a determined and challenging glare, and upon noticing this, Fu smiled brightly and waved at her. Karen sighed in defeat. There's no way to create an epic rivalry with this green-haired moron. Now that you know who will be your first opponent, my advice is to train like there's no tomorrow, Jiraiya began. Training grounds 14, 16 and 18 have been reserved for Suna, Taki and Kumo respectively, and have been marked with flags with the symbol of said villages. A boat will take you out of here. Good luck to everybody, and see you in a month. And that is it for this couple of chapters. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching, see you all later and bye.